Hi, my name's Kathleen and I'm from Road to Freedom Life Coaching. I'm a life coach and an energy worker, and I have developed a system called Journey Work where I help people release the pain they've been carrying around for a very long time. Well, today what I wanted to talk about is how much of a liar you are. And me, I'm a liar too. We both are. The kind of lying I want to talk about is the lying we do to ourselves. Let me give you an example. Let's say your life's been a bit stressful lately. I know that's a bit far-fetched, but just stay with me here. Let's say you're a little bit stressed out, so you decide to go for a walk. And you go on this walk on a beautiful path that you love, and all of a sudden you see something that makes your heart jump forward. You weren't paying attention because you're either skipping ahead into the future, worrying about something that hasn't happened yet, or you're falling back into the past, kind of revisiting some old wounds. Well, now you've come upon a snake on the path. And right away, the brain is thinking, how far can that thing strike? Do I go sideways or backwards, or what do I do? And your heart starts beating faster, your breath is going faster, you start breaking out in a sweat. It doesn't feel very good. What's happening is your fight or flight has come up in the body. And it's a good thing because that helps shut off blood to systems that we're not needing right now if we have to run. So here you are. You're faced with this situation, you're not feeling very good, that's not a good feeling to feel, that fight or flight, and you look at it again, and it's not a snake at all, it's just a stick that looks incredibly like a snake. You feel kind of silly, and you feel very relieved, but at the same time, your body has gone through the same stress as if that snake has been real. And so what's happened is your brain has just lied to you, and it lied to you in order to keep you safe. So it told you that's a snake. It took you into fight or flight. You didn't even have to think about that. In order to get that blood to your leg, muscles, everything that would be needed to run really, really fast. The problem is that gives us a huge shot of cortisol. Cortisol is a hormone that we need. But when it gets a big shot like that, it can mess your system up. And unless you're living in a very, very quiet area and have a very quiet life, we are being hit with these cortisol spikes many times a day. And so what I'd like to help you understand is a way to see when that's happening and some tricks to get yourself out of that situation. Now, if you have been having a lot of stress in your life and you felt that rapid heartbeat, sometimes you break out in a sweat, it's a definite feeling. It's if you've ever had it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And some of the symptoms that you have been going through too much of that your cortisol, because cortisol should be low at night so you can sleep, and it spikes in the morning, a natural level spike. If it's spiking all day, that causes harm to the body. And so if you're having anything like mental fogginess, you're having a really hard time remembering things, even more so than just your, well, I'm getting older, I'm having a hard time remembering things thing. If your thoughts keep racing ahead all the time, if you're having a lot of headaches and stomach problems, if you're feeling very restless a lot of the times, if your temper has become very, very short, these are all signs that your cortisol is much too high right now. And there are ways that you can get that down. In fact, if you go and ask your doctor for a test for that, there's a saliva test that you can take. And you have to take it different times of the day. It's very easy. You just swab your mouth, put it in a little container, and they send it off to a lab. And that will tell you whether or not your cortisol levels are too high. So let's talk about other times in life when this happens at us, when this happens in our life. would be, let's say you've got a friend and all of a sudden she's not really calling you anymore or anything. Well, we make the mistake of trying to get in that person's head, which I can tell you right now, it is none of your or my business what anybody else is thinking about us or anything else. If they want us to know what they're thinking, they will tell us. So this friend of ours is not getting a hold of us, and it's becoming a bit obvious. And then we start thinking back, well, I remember the last time I saw her, she was kind of short with me, and that wasn't that didn't feel too good. And so what happens is your subconscious starts shooting forward and bringing up all these things to keep you safe. Well, I've got other friends, I don't need her anyway, and all these silly little thoughts come up into our heads. Then you get a call from her and she says, I'm sorry I haven't been in touch lately. We had someone really, really sick in the family and it's been really stressed out. And so I'm sorry, but you left me that message and I haven't even been able to get back to you yet. Gosh, I would never want to hurt your feelings, you know. And so here she is getting in touch with you, and you probably respond something like, oh, I didn't even notice. No problem. Yeah, right. You noticed. This is another time when that cortisol jumps. When we start thinking in our minds what other people might be thinking, and our subconscious goes into that, I'm going to protect you from her or this or that mode. Or another situation might be, you know, you're at your work and you've heard a rumor they're going to start laying people off, and nobody knows who's going to get laid off. And you try to make eye contact with your boss, and she won't make eye contact with you. Well, what's going to happen with you? Usually, what happens is we go into this fight or flight, this response of just being very stressed and thinking, oh my gosh, she can't even look at me. It must be me. And all these thoughts start coming up out of your subconscious to protect you. And then you find out it had nothing to do with you at all, that she herself went through a medical scare, didn't know what the answers were going to be, just finally got a good result back from a test, and now she's back to herself. Can you see how we go ahead and make assumptions? And the reason we do that is because that subconscious jumps forward and it just wants to protect you. So how do we get off of that? How do we start being in the present? How do you stay in now? Everybody talks about that. Well, if you just live in the now, well, all you have to do is be in the now. So I'm going to ask you, do you know how to be in the now? If I ask you right now, okay, just get in the now. It's just you and I. Get in the now. I can help with that very easily. There's something you can do, and that is to look at your 5 fingers and think of your 5 senses. And if you will pay attention right then to what you're hearing, what you're seeing, what you're smelling, all of them, what you're tasting, just pay attention to those 5 senses when you're in a stressful situation. And all of a sudden, that brings you directly into the now. Because you can't be thinking about those and doing what I call the rubber band. You're not going to be snapping ahead, worrying about the future, or snapping back, worrying about something that happened to you in the past and mulling it over in your mind. Well, she was acting really weird that day, or he was acting really weird then. You know, you don't have to do that. Go ahead, look at your 5 fingers, think about your 5 senses, and pay attention to those 5 senses. That will center you right there and bring you into that now state. You can then go ahead and look at all these things going around you, just like you're in the center of a hurricane. All those little tornadoes are going around you, but those are not you. That's not you doing all those things. So if you can get in the center of that hurricane and you can make contact with whoever your higher being is, and take some deep breaths and come from a place of quiet power, instead of reacting to what is going on around you from a place of fear, a lot of times all these little mysteries will be cleared up. You know, if that boss did not want you at that work and you weren't going to match, it wouldn't be a good place for you to be anyway. So start looking at things like that in your life. Look at what you're fearful about. If something does happen and you say, well, if I had only been trying to understand what was in her brain, maybe I would have had a heads up. It doesn't really matter. You can still handle this. This is a way to live that is much more peaceful for you and I. We have to catch our brain when it's lying to us. We have to catch it when it's telling us that stick is a snake. We have to catch it when it's telling us that person's not our friend anymore. We have to catch ourselves when we start going into somebody's head trying to figure out what they're thinking. Because honestly, that is just none of our business. So pay attention in life to what's going on around you. And don't jump in someone's head. Pay attention to if you're going into fight or flight a lot. If you are, slow yourself down and ask yourself some questions. Get in the now. Ask yourself, am I just trying to get in that person's head? Has that person actually said those things to me? Or maybe something else is really going on here. Maybe there is something going on with them. And I just don't know, I don't know what's going on with them, so I probably shouldn't be jumping to conclusions. Take a big breath, calm yourself down, find some time to talk to that person, whoever it is that you are worried about, whoever it is these feelings are coming up about. Find some time to come from a place of love instead of coming from a place of fear. And you can clear up what you're wondering about in that way, which is much healthier than trying to do it in a very fearful, scared way. So the other thing that's a good thing to add to that peaceful power, is that spirit of grace. When you can come from a place where you're not just thinking about yourself, but when you're allowing yourself to surround that person with grace, you're giving them the chance to be able to have a talk with you instead of just jumping ahead like that and assuming things. It brings such a nice, just this beautiful, peaceful feeling to your relationships. It's a much easier way to live. So remember, we lie to ourselves. We have to catch that. Our brain is only doing that. The subconscious just wants to protect us. Try to stay out of rubber band mode, snapping ahead and falling back. Look at your 5 senses. Calm yourself down. That's how you get in the now, is with your 5 senses. Get that peaceful feeling going if you can and connect. And then when you're in that state of grace, ask someone if they will meet you sometime. Try to set up a private time for you. And that is when you can come from that place of peace and power and talk to someone you care about, or talk about your job, whatever it is you need to deal with. I hope this has helped you. It helps me. We lie to ourselves, but we can get better at catching it. And it just takes practice. So I'm hoping that you will get some practice in. You will catch your brain doing that, and your spirit will decide to be in control of your subconscious instead of the other way around. We still want our subconscious to work like that, because if I ever do come up upon a snake when I'm going for a walk, I want my fight or flight to kick in. So there are good times for that to happen. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye.